17 or 18 players in this team. It's good to get a look at some of the guys we don't see much of. I think once we go live to the public, it would also be good to talk about Big Scalesy. Scalesy has played really, really well. I just think it must be tough, even though these footballers are made of different kind of stuff. It must be tough for them, Liam, for the kind of abuse that Celtic players get from Celtic fans. I mean, Liam Scales is probably up there with the guy that gets most of that. Adam Ida's probably up there as well. But Scalesy, 99% of the time, he's absolutely, he's solid for Celtic.
Celtic have always had that, and I don't know why, but we've always, for as long as I've been following the team, there's always been like that player that it's fashionable to have a go at. And I remember for a while it was Jackie McNamara. For about the first 18 months he was at Celtic, it was Stan Petrov. There's always that guy that gets picked out, and it's like he's not any worse than the rest of the team are at the moment.
No, I know. And the thing with Scalesy, I think we spoke about it, the fact that he was unfashionable, the fact that he maybe came from a level of football that rightly or wrongly a lot of fans look at or maybe look down at, coming from the Irish League. I think his story has been incredible. His agent's Paul Dalglish, Kenny's boy.
All right.
So he obviously done the deal with Celtic to extend his contract. And I think it was quite a few months in the making, actually, to get it over the line. Surprise when it comes to Celtic and negotiating.
Yeah.
But, no, he's done brilliantly. He's an international footballer. He's played the Champions League games. He's starting for us next week, mate. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Scalesy is a starter.
Yep. Aye, he's earned it. Aye.
And I think we'll do that.
Especially if any of the injuries if the injury with Trusty is, what we think it is, then aye. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll do that with a view to maybe next week. We'll work our way through the performances today. And whilst we're doing it, rather than saying, give me your predicted 11, we'll actually talk about, he'll be a starter as we're talking about today's performance.
It's annoying Inamura's not in the squad because, see, if things got really bad, if we went like a goal or two down on Tuesday night, you could almost play him as a left winger.
I know. It is unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Just as we're giving Scales big plaudits, he goes and gives the ball away, and Colby Donovan had to sweep up for him. I think it was Scales anyway. The camera's looking at Murray. He's done it once. The other thing I would make the point of is that Kasper Schmeichel's got better kits than Celtic's outfield players this season. Every goalie strip is a belter.
The mint green one is a
mate.
That's the one I want. Aye. That's the one official top I think I'll be buying this season.
Right, that's the game finished, right? So now what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to go into the StreamYard. I'm going to go into the YouTube, actually, what I'll do first. And I'm going to see if it lets us change it to public, right? So welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon I'm delighted to be joined by Liam Carrigan. We are playing it safe. We have done our testing, and we should be live without any issues because we've done all the audio testing as well. So thanks everybody for sticking with us whilst there are platform issues. It's certainly not anybody at this end. We've not caused the problems, but we will resolve them, and we are live. A wee quick one because we've just gone live. The first couple of people that have come in, let us know what the sound is like. We've been live for a while behind the scenes, but we have just gone public. So please let us know behind the scenes how it is sounding, and we always react to that. We've got a couple of people. Yes, we're in. Jungle Lion, we are in. Jungle Lion, let us know. Can you hear us okay over there, mate? Sound is fine. Thanks for that, John, because you know what? We don't want to go live if the sound's rubbish. So we went live behind the scene, if you like, me and Liam talking a hell of a lot of rubbish. So you can go and catch the first 8 minutes of this show, which will be on the after live show on YouTube. We didn't say anything libelous, I don't think. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. Honestly, it's tremendous to get that support from you. So thank you very much. And we're going to be talking obviously about today's game. Thanks everybody for getting involved. I'm pretty sure that we'll get right up to your usual. Quinny, you're in, brilliant. Billy Smith sounds great, fantastic. Franny, I'm going to start off with you, Franny. I've got my views on the game. So us, Liam, but we want to know your views in the comments section about today's performance. You know, Scalesy gets the captain's armband. We've got Inamura making his debut at left back. How do you think he played? Shin Yamada making his first start. Colby Donovan coming in for his first game as well. A couple of slight issues with players maybe feeling the brunt of some hard tackles. Liam, with Luke McEwen going off, Shin Yamada colliding with a post just at the end of the game. Young Dane Murray seems to be feeling it as well. So hopefully there's no other injuries, mate, because we cannot afford to have any other injuries at the moment, Liam.
No, and I think it was really good to see Inamura get a full game today. Yeah, like you say, it's frustrating that he's not in the European squad. I mentioned this before we went live, but I'll just say it again for emphasis. He really showed today that he's going to be a valuable part of the squad, I think.
I want to focus on it. Liam, because I felt a wee bit for him last week, or in the days leading up to this game, when he was asked the direct question, albeit, you know, it came from fan media. It wasn't a question that came from the mainstream, because I think when we talk every nuance of Celtic, and I get it, right, because the journalists are covering every team in the league and all the rest of it, and they might not look at every single possibility when it comes to team selection, etc., whereas we do, because our entire focus was on Celtic. So it did take someone from fan media to say, right, what's the story with Inamura? Why is he not in the squad? And again, we've spoken about this. We watched every ball that he kicked during pre-season, and he impressed. Brendan Rodgers said defensively he's not where he wants him to be. He was thrown in today at the deep end, if you like. Had plenty of the ball, Liam. Plenty of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a wee note here. He was up against Livingston. Have always got big, strong players. Look, we're used to that. We expect it now. It's normal, right? But he was up against, I think it was down in the left back area, and he showed a lot of good physicality and defensive qualities. And that was the thing that maybe Brendan Rodgers was concerned about. Very good on the ball as well. Loves whipping in a cross. He had a shot himself. Likes to get forwards. Definitely at the moment, he looks as though he's a decent squad player.
He had a hand in the second and third goals. You know, I don't know if you would quite call it an assist, but he played the through ball, which allowed Dyson to put the ball across for the third goal. And he also played a part in the build-up for the second goal. So it's, yeah, he's, as I say, I think he's definitely offers a lot more of an attacking sense than Greg Taylor did. Defensively, I'd put them both about the same level so far. But again, more game time, he'll improve as he gets used to his surroundings. I thought he and Yang both linked up really well. You know, Yang, you can talk about his form, but the guy was trying. He was making a lot of runs. He was trying to make things happen. And his link-up play with Inamura down that side was really good, I felt.
Well, the thing with Yang, we'll bring this up. Me and Ewan, big Ewan boy Martin, have a wee ding-dong about Yang all the time because he's a big fan, whereas I'm still of the view that he doesn't do enough. But I think there comes a point, Liam, where there's a comfort zone with some players where you're stepping into a team that's already in a rhythm and winning games, and you're looking around and all the big players are in place, and you can just be a wee bit of that jigsaw, but you're not expected to be the match winner, the game changer. And I think for a period, Yang was that guy where he's coming in and for a wee cameo and he's maybe getting an assist and a goal here. But what I want from him at this stage, 2 and a bit seasons into his Celtic career, is I just want him and Engels, by the way, although Engels has obviously scored a lot of important goals, mainly from the penalty spot, is I just want them to grab the game, take the initiative, grab the game by the scruff of the neck at times and say, well, I'm going to be the main player. I don't want to be a bit part in this team. And today was a good example of an opportunity to do that because a lot of the big personalities and the guys who are normally starters were on the bench. And I was looking at Yang to be that player. I think he did link up really well down the left. He showed a lot of intent. He was far better today than he was when he started against St Mirren. I was really disappointed in the first day of the season with him. Is he better on the left, perhaps? I'm not sure. He might be a better left winger than a right winger. If that's the case, then I'm pushing this campaign to get Maida back through the middle. I mean, you pushed it for about 2 years before anybody listened to you, Liam.
Yeah, look, whether or not you think Yang is the answer long term, and that's definitely something that's going to divide people. He was a lot more involved on the left side today than he was on the right side against St Mirren. He was a lot more involved in the play. He was trying to do a lot more, and I think, if wherever we're in a position where we have to play Yang, I think if Celtic have all of our ducks in a row, Yang shouldn't be a starting 11 player. It should be a squad player. But if he is starting, I think out left is probably the best place to start him, based on what we've seen this season so far.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, I'm looking at the table at the moment. Celtic, obviously, having played 3 games, have maximum points. Closest to us at the moment is Hearts, who lost today. Let's have a look at some of the other games. So, Dundee United versus Aberdeen, match postponed. Celtic, of course, beat Livingston 3-0. And we're going to be talking about all 3 of those goals. Hearts were getting beat. They pulled it back, actually. I was obviously concentrating on making sure our audio was okay, and they pulled it back to 3 each against Motherwell. So there was a wee flurry nearer the end of that game. 83 minutes, they equalised, and it's 3 each. Kilmarnock draw nothing each with Dundee, and Falkirk and Hibs match postponed as well. So what we've got at the moment, match postponed, obviously, I'm saying that was part of the original fixtures. It's all to do with the European fixtures, isn't it? And then tomorrow we've got St Mirren versus Rangers. So yes, the league table rather, is looking the way that we like to look.
Don't declare the league title till we win next week, right? That's
it's a little bit premature. Yeah, it's a little bit premature. We've been called entitled before, Liam. This is pushing it after 3 games. So Celtic's top of the table, obviously. Hearts are second. Hibs have played a game less. And Livingston, I mean, let's not forget, we didn't really focus a great deal on how they had done so far this season, but they're sitting 4th at the moment in the table. And they've come to Celtic Park. And it's Livingston. We know what we're going to get. Davy Martindale makes absolutely no apologies for how Livingston approach these games. And like him or loathe him and his history and all the rest of it, he's like the perfect fit for that club. David Martindale and Livingston's a match made in heaven. They do really, really well for the budget that they've got. I've got a guy that I got to know a wee bit who actually works in their kind of media team. And these guys are working on a shoestring, Liam. So they've got to take every win. And I mean that in terms of, players, anybody they can bring in and sell on for a profit and all the rest of it. And remember, they did it with Lyndon Dykes, who gave us a couple of hero moments over the years, talking about which it brings back memories of Chris Julian, who collided with that same post that Yang collided with today. So, yeah, we go into that game with an understrength side, and we've come out looking fairly comfortable. And it wasn't a game that completely turned on its head when we made the subs, Liam. We were pretty comfortable up to that point.
No, do you know what you said about Martindale there, right? Reminds me of an interesting chat I had with my dad a while ago. Before Rangers became the governed £1.49ers or whatever, there was talk of Martindale possibly becoming their manager. And I think he would actually do really well there, because name on A can put a team out on the park that can fight, and I think that his qualities as a manager are perhaps deserving of maybe a slightly better team than Livingston, because there's more. There are teams in bigger leagues that need that kind of manager, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and again with Martindale, I think everybody knows his backstory, Liam, don't they? And I don't know if that would put off other teams in hiring him as a manager, and that's what I mean. He's been there for a number of years. He comes in, he makes things difficult. It was very stuffy in the first half. I was talking about how, you talk about defending deep and defending with blocks of 5. They were defending at times with everybody in their own box, and it was making it almost impossible. And the frustration there is, even if you are trying that speculative effort at that stage, it's very difficult for the ball to go anywhere. Never mind ricochet into the back of the net. We're going to be talking about all the goals individually, but I really am keen to get your thoughts on this one. Sandbag, tongue-in-cheek, 69 says, rehire the board. This is something that we spoke long and hard about. And obviously when we had the platform issues on Friday, I ended up talking for an hour and 15 minutes myself about it with one cup of tea, and I got myself through it there, Liam. So there's a lot to be said. Double Denim also helping us out over the last couple of days with some of these issues. If StreamYard don't sort it out. We'll just flip provider and we'll go somewhere else and we'll sort it out that way. Murray was largely excellent again. It leads me on to the performance of Dane Murray. He's a player who's been, in our sights for, since Ange Postecoglou's first season. So we're now moving into season number 5, knowing all about Dane Murray. A player who came through with great promise, horrendous injury issues, Liam, but the club, and in particular Brendan Rodgers, have got a faith in this kid. And then coming into this season, you're thinking, right, let's just see you play now. We've heard all the hype. We know that you've had a really hard time. Rodgers really, really believes in you. Let's see it. And I think what we've seen so far this season is that, as well as all the hype, this boy can play. Yeah. He is a decent addition to the first team squad, isn't he?
I wonder if we're going to see more of him and perhaps less of Simpson Pusey as the season goes on. Dare I say, is it possible that if Dane Murray continues to perform the way he does when he comes in, we could see Simpson Pusey going back to Man City at Christmas?
Well, I was going to bring this up because whilst we were obviously watching the game in the second half, I was having a wee look through the comments on the pre-match. In fact, it came up through on the half-time one, and someone was apoplectic at the fact that we had brought up a comment in relation to a rumour circulating around Simpson Pusey. And I'd just like to say, we didn't say it was true. We brought it up. And you know what? We are football fans talking about Celtic. We will talk about things that have been confirmed elsewhere. We'll talk about information from sources that we get, and we'll also be bringing up comments from people who are speculating about things maybe that they have heard. So we're going to continue doing that. And I don't think you try and topple anything that we built up simply because we can't confirm or otherwise the rumour that was circulating in the pre-match about Simpson Pusey. We put it out there. It's like sitting on a supporters bus going to the game, or sitting in a pub after the game talking to a group of Celtic fans. Have you heard? And we always confirm, Liam, and we confirm and qualify whether or not something's confirmed. Is it from a good source? Is it credible? Or you know what? It's absolute gossip, and that's speculation, and that's part of talking about football as well.
And the problem is, right, doing the blog and writing about Celtic almost every day. The amount of stuff that you have to write and you can't confirm it because nobody at the club will talk about it. That's the problem. So many rumours and so many, and I'm not just talking about transfers, I'm talking about operational issues at Celtic. That thing with the fencing of part of the stadium last week, whatever. All of this stuff could be shut down in a second if somebody from the club would just talk. But as you've said yourself numerous times, Brendan Rodgers seems to be our only spokesman at the moment. He's the only person in an official capacity at Celtic that ever says anything.
I know.
And that's really infuriating.
It's infuriating, Liam, and it seems to be the norm for Celtic. So I'm going to go back to the COVID season, which was a classic example of let's communicate with your fan base here, because not only were you in that scenario where you didn't know what was happening day to day with your job and anything, your health and your relatives and everything else, you were buying a season ticket, no going to the games, being given a product that wasn't fantastic in terms of a pass to paradise, it was called, and a £50 voucher to keep you happy. And nobody at the club spoke to us. And at that point, I think that was a breakthrough moment, or it should have been, where the club were like, you know what, we are going to engage with our fans. It doesn't always have to be the corporate approach either, Liam. We might actually speak to them as if they're human beings and so are we. And they could have done it on so many different platforms. They've got Celtic TV there with, I think it's, I don't know, 1 million. It's not quite 1 million, 750,000 subscribers. You're going out to a hell of a lot of Celtic fans, and you could actually engage with the fan base. They didn't do it then, and they put Neil Lennon out front and centre for every single press conference, to the point where I was at the stage, Liam, where I was thinking, this isn't good for the manager. You need to give him a wee bit of backup here. Now, I don't mean stick the CEO in front of the camera for a pre-match, but let's start engaging more than with one person, because at the moment, that's been replaced by Brendan. Brendan gets asked everything. Every single aspect of the football club, Brendan Rodgers is the man. He's it. And I do think that the engagement of the football club has to improve? Brendan must be getting bored with the same old questions every single day.
Do you know, just going back to the COVID season for a minute, I'll tell you one club that I thought conducted themselves brilliantly in the COVID season and didn't get enough credit for it was Brentford. Now, they did a couple of things which I think Celtic could and should have done. One, their office staff who were working from home, obviously, they were basically told, phone round the season ticket holders and just ask them, are you all right?
I remember that.
Anything we can do, right?
Yeah.
Also, they declared that they were not going to release any new kits the following season because they were like, people are skint, we'll run with a home shirt for another season. And you know what? I'll bet a lot of people bought that shirt just because they thought, you know what? I want to encourage that. That's positive behaviour.
Two-way street, Liam, isn't it? See if you think that it's equal in that respect. I do think you get a better response to it. We are going to be talking about some of the performances today, hopefully doing so through the comment section as well. And we're going to be talking about the goals, 3 of which came in the second half. It was a great start to the second half. The first half, we spoke about a couple of decent chances. I think Shin Yamada, you were kind of hoping he would open his account for Celtic. He had a great chance. It was a Dane Murray through ball, and he just didn't connect with the shot, did he? But I think what I liked about Shin's performance today, Liam, is that even though it was a kind of disappointing afternoon, maybe on a personal level for him because he didn't get his goal, he continually put himself into the positions. He continually made the runs. And I don't know if we'll ever get a player in Shin Yamada that will match the departed Kyogo Furuhashi. I don't know if they're at the same level. You'll be able to tell me better than that. But I think with Shin, we're certainly going to be seeing a player who is certainly a good squad player, Liam, from what I've seen so far.
A lot of the runs that Shin was making today were reminiscent of Kyogo.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I'm not going to say he's as good as him or whatever.
Didn't he badge you on? Don't Stevie badge you on, right? This early in his Celtic career.
No, but no, he, as I said, he's a similar type of player, but he's got a bit more about him physically than Kyogo has, and I think you saw some of that today as well. And he's a Kyogo type of player, and that's what we need. We need someone who's going to make those runs, who is going to give us that something a bit different up front. I mean, regardless of how you think he performed today, I think we can all agree that his movement and his positional sense was better than anything we've seen from our other strikers so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, the number one striker, of course, is Adam Idah. He's not in the squad today through injury. It then makes you look ahead to next week, Liam. And I'm going to get some of the commenters' thoughts on who we start with next week, because going into the game, we were looking at the forward line. And, of course, Nygren started on the right-hand side, Yang on the left. And I was looking at Nygren thinking, right, this is going to be interesting. How does he fare out wide right? I don't think he looks like a natural winger. He doesn't hit the byline, take on his man, all that kind of stuff. He likes to drift inside, and rather than dink it into the box, he plays it kind of to the left, to the midfield. He tries to create that way, but he gets 2 goals. And I think that obviously 3 goals already this season from the midfield, if you like, is a great return. Nygren, we sometimes judge footballers by the transfer fees, rightly or wrongly, and I think that Engels and Idah have probably suffered from that. You certainly cannot judge this player by his transfer fee, Liam, because we got him for a price that really wasn't his value because of his contract situation. He looks like an absolute steal at this stage, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's the inverse of Engels and Idah. Both of those players, if we'd signed them for what was probably their true market value at the time rather than what we ended up paying because we took too long to get the deals done, I don't think either of them would be copping half as much flack as they do.
I agree with that. Yep.
Whereas with Nygren, that's easily a 7, 8, maybe 10 million pound player that we've got for less than 2 million, and that's it. Whatever you can say about our scouting team, whatever you say about our transfer policy, take it in isolation, that is a magnificent bit of business.
Who's claiming credit? Who claims credit for all the good ones?
Nobody's talking. That's the problem.
That's true. Who claims credit for all the good ones? Right, Patrick, you're in. You're on the YouTube. Patrick James Simpson. Kenny finished with his studs was good. Another day that goes well, yeah, another day it could go wide. But I'll tell you something about Kenny. It wasn't the only thing he did today, Liam, and I've praised him. I've praised him to the hilt for the ability to drop deep, right? Do the tussle with whoever's marking you and get away from them. He did that, didn't he, before he scored his goal? He wins the corner, and then he's a strong runner. He's a very, very hard worker, but he's a strong runner. And you think to yourself, you know, he's going to get the ball carrying from the halfway line into the box. Johnny Kenny's brilliant at that. My concern was that whatever happens at the end of that move, sometimes the finishing is not quite there. I said that, you know, the quality's not there with the finishing, because his getting the ball, transitioning from defence to attack, turning, getting it, carrying the ball forward, he's excellent at that. He really is. But that finish today, and you were right to give Inamura credit, because Inamura did a great deal leading up to it. He's not going to get an assist. Maeda gets the assist. That was just a 6-yard box striker's goal. And, you know, sometimes we've been crying out for it, Liam.
Aye, absolutely. And that's the thing, you know, Celtic need a striker coach. See, because we've got 3 very different centre forwards in Ida, Shin, and Kenny, right? We all know what Dyson can do as a centre forward, right? I think he's already as good as he's going to get, and he's already at a very high level. But all 3 of those players have elements of their game that need development. You know, like you say, Kenny has got the physicality, he's quite fast, needs to work in his finishing. Ida can finish, can be powerful when he wants to be, but needs confidence and needs a bit of coaching. I think he needs to develop a bit more, maybe emotional maturity. I don't know what you would say. He just needs to be, he needs to step up and have the confidence to be a Celtic number 9. Shin has got, he's got the run timing, he's got the pace, he's got the power. Needs to maybe get a bit more educated about the Scottish game and how to adapt his style to it. These are all things that a striking coach with experience of Scottish football could help with.
Well, I remember speaking about this. I think in terms of Adamida, it's not. We're not knocking him by saying that he lacks a bit of football intelligence. We're not saying that he's thick, but on the park, there's certain things that footballers know, and it's about positional awareness. It's about when to retain your energy. It's about the runs that you make.
And they're all things that can be coached.
Well, yeah. These are the things, right? And I remember on a Celtic State of Mind, I'd need to go back to the era. And I remember thinking, because there is this jobs for the boys things, you know, what if we were to bring in a striker coach? And I remember talking about the fact that we had one of the greatest strikers in modern football in Henrik Larsson, who at that point was unemployed, right? And the fact that these people have got so much to offer in relation to a football club that, you know, there's a relationship with already, Liam. And by the way, it's great that he brought out an autobiography and done an audience with, and there's a range of clothing. I think Henrik Larsson's got far more than that to offer in terms of football, right? And I spoke about it in 2020, and people were saying that's just an old boys act. You don't know if he's a good coach. Well, he's not a manager, right? He's kind of proven that. He's not going to be a manager, Liam, right? But what he can give to the 5 Celtic strikers that we've got at the moment in terms of knowledge, experience, tips, guidance, I think would be worthwhile. And not that long after we spoke about it on a Celtic State of Mind, he was given that very job at Barcelona. He was given the coaching job at Barcelona. I think maybe Koeman was the manager at the time. So I remember looking at that thinking, we should be bringing somebody like him in right now. I did an event fairly recently, and I spoke to Chris Sutton and John Hartson, who were in the same wee room. There's always a wee back room, mate. Sometimes it's a wee house, like a boot room, very tight. Other times it's a nice big suite and all the rest of it. I'm just obviously hanging on to their coattails, of course, Liam. And I asked them the question about a striker coach. They said that although they think it would work, the manager might not like the idea that you're bringing in a specialist because you should be the guy that should be able to coach your players. And I get that as well. And there might be a better striker coach out there in global football that we can attract who has got no connection to Celtic, Liam, but I don't know about them. You know, remember the guy Austin McPhee who teaches people how to do set pieces and stuff and all the rest of it? Great. If there's a striker coach who's brilliant, who's got no connection with Celtic, hire him first. But if not, what about somebody who's already a legend and knows what it means to play for this football club?
Well, do you know, I mean, I'm going back about 10 years here, but there was I had the privilege one night of talking with Pierre Van Hooijdonk for a couple of hours. And he actually said that being Celtic's striker coach would be his dream job. That was two things I remember from the conversation. Is he would love to be Celtic's striker coach, and that when the time comes he wants to retire in Turkey because he thinks it's a wonderful country and he was treated like royalty over there. So make of that what you will, but that's one guy who would definitely take the job if he was offered it.
Well, there you go. There's one example. I'll tell you what, he could teach them how to take free kicks, could Pierre Van Hooijdonk. But no, there will be options out there, and I just think that sometimes it might even just be that moment where a player's head goes down and you've got an experienced player, Liam, who can say, look, I've had times like this in my career, and this is how you're going to get through it. So there's also tapping into the mindset of the players as well. I think it's something we really need to consider. I remember when we were having issues at the back, people talking about a defensive coach, which also we don't have, a specialised defensive coach. Paul McLean comes in to say Nygren might have cost a lot more had his club not let the contract run down. I agree with you, Paul.
Yes.
He is looking like a bargain. What I want to see from him next week is I just want to see him go out and absolutely boss it in Europe as well, Liam, because obviously he's shown us that he can do it domestically. Scored against Aberdeen, scored 2 today. He was excellent today. I think he played into the game today, and we've seen that with him as well, where against St Mirren, wasn't brilliant in the first half, but then he kind of played into the game. And that's all about him as a player as well, whereby he's not playing that well, but he's able to get out of the rhythm. Liam, which a lot of players can't. If you're in that wee rut of a bad performance, you can't get out of it. So that's good that he can do that. Gary McGill comes in on the YouTube. We've got a couple of minutes left. Me and Liam were doing a kind of pre-live chat, discussion, etc. If you want to have a laugh at us, then go and watch it back on the YouTube for the first 8 minutes. Shin and Inamura were good. Think it shows Kalmak needs to be replaced more. Why not? Why not? See, under normal circumstances, a third of the way through the season, 2/3 of the way through the season, Liam, where you come up against a side who are maybe languishing in the bottom third of the league, and you're playing them at home.
Rangers,
it could well be, yeah. This moment, could well be. And you play 8 or 9 of your absolute stuck-on starters, but you do then give the likes of KT and Callum McGregor a rest. I think that needs to happen this season.
Aye. Well, I mean, that was a good thing today. That's why I think we're all very happy that Inamura put in such a good performance, because now we know, Scottish League level, we can probably be fairly confident of giving Tierney a rest when he needs it and putting Inamura in.
Yeah, I would be fairly confident at this stage. I think that he got a few early warning signs that there's a real physicality to the Scottish game. Finlayson went through him a couple of times, but then he starts to win the headers himself, Liam. It's like he acclimatised himself pretty quickly. I like that about him. I like his directness as well. He's very offensive. Jinky, 67, Brendan knows best. Superb today, Celtic. Where are all the pre-match bedwetters? We were pretty cool pre-match, Liam. We were pretty cool about this game. I was looking forward to seeing some of the guys we don't see very often, and we should be able to have enough to get through a game like today. I'm going to bring this up from Danielle. Danielle has some concerns about Engels. She thinks that he is just dreadful, that free kick, dearie me. It gets to the point sometimes where you back a player, you can die in the hill if you want. Liam, I've backed Engels since day one, and you can die on that hill. Or you can watch the performance and take notes and say, actually, he's losing the ball here. He's not doing that very well. I don't think he's had a great start to this season, which is pretty unusual, because I don't think he finished off particularly badly. But he's not a first pick, is he, when everybody's fit, particularly when you think about Nygren and the impact that he's made. The £11 million, I think, is weighing heavy on his shoulders. I hope that the form of the team, I hope that the mood across the board, particularly after the return leg next week, improves. And with that, I hope that a wee bit of the kind of tension and the pressure is relieved from a player like Arnie Engels. I'd like us to go out and buy a £10 million player so it takes a wee bit of the pressure off him. But I do feel for him. I still believe that he has bags and bags of potential, but it's been all eyes on him since the day he signed for Celtic, Liam. And it must be difficult. It must be difficult, that aspect of it.
Aye, it is. It is. And like you say, I think if we went out and spent 11 or 12 million on somebody next week, that would maybe go a long way to helping Engels, but it's also potentially throwing that next player under the bus. Because this is a problem, and I am not for a second going to defend our board, because I think they've been far too passive when it comes to getting transfers over the line. But on one hand, you go out and spend upwards of 25 million on Trusty, Engels, and Ida, right? And that's the money you have to pay to get good level players. Now, you can argue about whether those three have proven to be worth that money, but you don't then turn around and say, oh, they were a waste of money, we shouldn't waste that much money. It's like, guys, this is a market you have to operate in if you're going to be a European club, right? Sometimes you're going to get a player who works out, sometimes you're going to get a player who doesn't. But you have to operate in that slightly higher level market. I mean, here's the thing, right? I was looking at the other day. When we stopped the 10 in 1998, now correct me if I'm wrong here, I think our biggest signing of that summer was £3.5 million, if I remember right.
Who did we buy? Craig Burley? Jacko? Dan Jackson?
Mm-hmm. Jackson was £1.5 million, so there was somebody we paid £3.5 million for. I can't quite remember who it was, but that was our biggest signing that summer, right? Then, fast forward to now, we're still operating in that same market.
I know.
Nearly 30 years later. Doesn't inflation come into it? Doesn't,
I made the point last week that the season Liam Brady came in, where we're saying Gary Gillespie, Tony Mowbray, Tony Cascarino. We spent more money so far. We spent more money that season than we have done. No, you're right. And it is something that, I would be happy if we signed 3 more players between now and the end of the transfer window closing, and those 3 players cost the same amount as the 3 that are obviously under the microscope right now. And from similar sized either leagues or teams, I would still be happy with that. I think when it comes down to the price, some of the other bigger signings that we've had, if you even fast forward a wee bit to Martin O'Neill's era, Chris Sutton was £6 million. I've asked him about the price tag. He says it was nothing because the pressure had already been felt at Chelsea and Blackburn before, because he cost £5 and £10 million beforehand. John Hartson had cost £7.5 million when he went to West Ham. So, in terms of the transfer fees, they didn't seem to weigh too heavily on guys like that, Liam. Alan Thompson had gone to Villa. That was his big move, wasn't it? £4.5, £5 million flopped at Villa. So they were coming to Celtic, and it was almost as if the transfer fees were almost not even relevant to the player. They're very much relevant to us as a football club. But this time round, this is a guy who, at 20 years of age, was moving from the Bundesliga to Celtic. And I think that when we started talking about signing him, the price was closer to £7 or £8 million. So it has obviously gone up. That's our fault as a football club, I think, not getting the deal done quickly enough. And it has caused a bit of tension within the player. I'm not writing him off. I do think that, even if you were to look at what he's done since he came to Celtic, without the nuances of every performance, in terms of Champions League campaign under his belt, and he performed well in the Champions League campaign, full international with Belgium. Now, he didn't have that when we were buying him just over a year ago. In fact, almost a year ago, because I think he came in on the 30th of August, last couple of days of the window. So, Daniel, I get it. I absolutely get that. I think it's a huge season for him. I think there's a lot for Engels to prove. Ida at least has got, I won you the Scottish Cup. I've done as much as anybody to win you the league in the 6 months that he was in on loan. And then, of course, 20 goals last season, Champions League goals as well, Liam. So I think he's got a bit of credit in the bank. Engels and Trusty, however, I think Celtic fans are watching those situations very closely.
I remember a couple of years ago, we were talking in the build-up to a New Year Glasgow derby, and we were debating at the time about whether or not Paulo Bernardo should be signed on a permanent deal at the end of that season.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the comment that he's the type of guy who's just one winning goal against Rangers away from becoming a hero. Guess what happened the following week?
Yeah.
So, that's not to blow my own trumpet. I'm just saying, imagine we get a penalty in the last minute next week and Engels puts it away. I think a lot of the pressure suddenly disappears.
It's a great shout, actually, if we get a penalty against Kyra, because I've heard a lot of that. £11 million for a penalty taker. Yeah, taking penalties is quite an important
part. If it's a penalty that gets us 40 million quid, then it's a worthwhile investment. So.
Yeah. So, you know what? We need heroes during the week. Hopefully, some of the guys we've spoken tonight will become those heroes. It was an unusual Celtic starting 11, but we got the job done. And obviously, I think on Sunday, tomorrow, we start the travel to Kazakhstan, 7,000-mile round trip. We've heard all the distances. It was the same for them coming over to Glasgow. So hopefully we can go and do the trip. We will be covering that as always during the week as well. I've just got to thank everybody. Thanks for coming in, 1,700 strong on the live stream today. There are issues with the platform that we use, but we will resolve those one way or another. I can assure you that. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thank you to Liam Carrigan for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.